So we have, hello everybody. We have 1 more minute to go, a few seconds, and then we will start so that everybody is here with us on time. So just bear with us. So welcome everybody. My name is Petra Schwager. I am going to moderate this webinar, and really a warm thank you to all of you for your interest. And I hope everything will go well. So I would like to start with my presentation to give you just a bit of an overview on what you are going to expect to see today. Ellie is going to put for me the presentation. And yeah, so just a few minutes. Yes, so you are now live with our webinar, where we will focus on talking to you about the step-by-step implementation of the business model, the criteria, what are the best practices, and about, of course, the Global Award. Next slide, please. So you will, in this module, and we have several, eventually we will also organize other modules, or you find some of our other webinar modules even on our homepage. But in this one, we will learn about what is the methodology? How can you introduce chemical leasing at the company level? And in this, we will not only talk about the good things, but also the challenges, because we are all fans of chemical leasing, but we also are aware of the challenges that this model might bring, and especially the challenge to make people change and, you know, to change their mindset. So then it's also important for you to know, how does it work? How does the business model work? And how can the partners benefit from it? It is a win-win model. So it is a model where we have economic and environmental savings or benefits, but we also have to show them and demonstrate them to our partners. This brings me already to the next parts, which are the key elements. Thanks. The key element of chemical leasing, it is performance-based pricing. It is bringing the two interests, aligning the interests of the chemical user and the supplier. I will come back to this in my next slide. We will also talk to you about the implementation in different countries. As you know, at UNIDO, we started in 2004 already to work on the model, and I had the pleasure to guide the team since then. At that time, we worked together, or we still are working very much together with the Ministry of Austria, with the Ministry of Environment of Austria. And in 2004, we joined hands to promote it at the global level, and we are together since then. Later on, also Germany and Switzerland have joined our programs, and we have a lot of supporters also from the private sector, like the European Federation of Chemical Distributors, Enactus, which is a student organization. We have countries like Serbia, El Salvador, Sri Lanka, and Peru that have signed an international declaration on chemical leasing, in addition to our donors from Switzerland, Austria, and Germany. So, and then we have the pleasure also to have a long-standing business partner to join us today. This is SafeChem. I'm really very happy that Steffen Saecker, the business director, could join us today. They have really shown how you can sustainably apply this model, and how you can really keep on working on it and fine-tuning it. I must say we learned really a lot from them. And then last but not least, how to apply for the Chemical Leasing Award, which is now 2021. You know, due to COVID, it was shifted from this year to next year, July, the award ceremony, and the call is open until the 15th of December. Next slide, please. So I was asked to quickly to give you a quick overview, so what chemical leasing is already. So in chemical leasing is a B2B business model. So there are always two partners, minimum two partners involved. On one hand, it's the chemical supplier, and on the other hand, it's the chemical user. So in a normal business model, the chemical leasing, the supplier sells the chemicals, and the more he or she sells, the better. So it is the benefit is on the quantity. On the other hand, you have the chemical user who is, of course, interested in using as little as possible, because that is affecting his money, no, his funds. So what are we doing in chemical leasing? We are thinking, okay, nobody wants to buy chemicals. What everybody wants to buy is the function of a chemical. So we were sitting down and saying, so what's the function? So just to give you a very short example, when you have a cleaning of metal pieces, so you're buying a solvent and you want to clean the metal pieces in your company. What's the function? So the function is, or the performance of the chemical, it's better to talk about performance, is that your metal piece is cleaned. So this is now becoming the basis for payment. You are now putting a fee to this one. Other examples you will hear throughout the seminar are labels. So you are buying the adhesive to glue your labels on the bottle. So what's the performance of the chemical, of the chemical, is that you have the label stick on your bottle. So put the price on the label, stick that is stuck to your bottle. And that is in a nutshell what the model is about. It sounds easy, it sounds also very logical, but in practice it needs a rethinking, it needs a good cooperation between chemical leasing user, a chemical supplier and user. But at the end of the day, both are benefiting. And at the end of the day, we are all benefiting, because less is more. So you're achieving more with less. You're bringing in innovation. You will see this later on, additional know-how. And it is simply the business model for the future, fully aligned with the principles of circular economy. Without further ado, may I just close the presentation now, and again ask all participants to mute themselves. I heard some voice here. Yeah. So we're back here, and I have to mute somebody here, because I'm the moderator of the session, so I hope I'm going to do everything right with the technical issues. Without further ado, I will pass on to Vojka. Vojka Satric is one of our long-term consultants on chemical leasing. She has a vast experience in industry. She used to work for the National Cleaner Production Center in Serbia. And we also have the director here, or she still works with the center. And Vojka is going to introduce to us, how do you implement chemical leasing in practice? What is the step-by-step approach in this? So Vojka, the floor is yours, and I will just disappear for the moment.
Nice to have you on this seminar. I am going to tell you something about a step-by-step approach for the implementation of this model. What we did, we divided this process in 3 phases, or maybe 3 steps. First of all, we should know if company can implement chemical leases. That means assessment of company potentials for optimization of processes of chemicals. After that comes development and implementation of the chemical leasing business model. In this phase, or in this step, all partners are involved. First of all, supplier, and other if there are. At the end, after signing of contract, we evaluate and monitor the results. After that, we divided these steps in some tasks. First of all is this step preparation or assessment of a company's potential. We have to identify potential chemicals and processes. After that, to pre-assess these chemicals and processes, and predefine a unit of payment. I will show you that on our own experience. This is the case from Serbia metal processing case. Our idea was to to implement chemical leasing on oils in metal processing, but when we go to the company, we faced with problem in that process, because there are so many processes, so many kind of oils. But we realized a very good opportunity for chemical leasing. It was metal parts cleaning. They had really bad problems in this process, because they used too much solvent. Consumption was too high because of frequently change of the solvent in the baths. They generate a lot of waste, and the worst of all was that the quality of cleaning was not good enough. After that, our next task was to define unit of payment. In this company, not only in this, in all metal processing companies, there are many kind of parts, different shapes, weights, and so on. But we were lucky, because this company works 24 hours daily, 7 days a week, constantly, so process is constant. And the unit of payment in this case was predefined as a monthly fee, but it is also actually related to number of working hours of cleaning machines. After that, so we have process, we have unit of payment. Now we should create internal working group, establish core chemical leasing team, collect data, and define baseline. This task is really very important, and sometimes time consuming. Also, we have to define measure to optimize chemicals and processes, test identified options, and at the end of the day, sign a chemical leasing contract. Who is involved in chemical leasing team internal working group, I'd say? That is almost all parts of company, but don't be afraid, they are not working all the time, the team. They are involved when it is needed. Purchase department, production, of course, all the time. Quality assurance, and research and development department, financial department, legal department. This team is really the driving force for change, but management commitment is really the most important and crucial for, like in any change, so big change like this in company. After that comes establishment of chemical leasing team. That means internal team, supplier, and other partners. Other partner can be equipment producer or consultant. In the case of metal processing company, that was Cleaner Production Center of Serbia. They should identify ideas for potential substitution or process optimization. But let me tell you, in the most cases, suppliers have idea how to improve process in the company. Then to assess, of course, impacts on quality, on investment, costs, and also define the scope of required testing. That is important to test, not to lose time on something that you don't need. Also to prepare and sign letter of intent. It is not necessary, but we always do like that. And establish a detailed time schedule and allocate tasks. Time schedule is plan that is needed, but very often it is not like that. That is our experience. After that, data collection and baseline definition is really important, and sometimes it is not so time-consuming. Company has all data, but in some cases that is really time-consuming. phase or task. This is the case of bottling company also in Serbia. They would like to be sure about their baseline and about improvements. They were not so convinced in the solution of supplier, so they installed water meters on their line. We started with the one line, that is important to tell you. We started with this one line. They also measured, they would like to know about coefficient of friction, so they measured coefficient of friction, they measured chemical consumption, estimate and measure together. And this, in this case, it takes, I don't remember very well, but about 3 months. This is another company, that is confectionery company. We are talking about bonded boxes, also Serbia. This really takes time because, you know, companies have their own production plans and you cannot jump in and do the testing whenever you want. You have to wait a right moment for that. And we measured consumption of adhesive, temperature, we measured pressure on the line. And as you see, there are many types of boxes to be bonded, so we cannot do it in one day. So this case was really time. This task was really consuming in this case. Now we have all data, and we have economic indicators. It is very important because, you know, business is because of money, and everyone would like to change something if he gets some profit or some money, let's say. Also, we have environmental indicators. That means chemical consumption, waste generation, energy consumption, and so on. In some cases, we don't have accurate data, but assumption, but it is good enough for start. Also, health and safety indicators. One of the principles of chemical leasing is to substitute hazardous chemicals with less or non-hazardous one. So, others' health on workers is very important from chemicals to know. After that, we define definition of measures to optimize chemical use and processes. As I have already told you, usually supplier has idea what should be done. In both cases I have mentioned, our suppliers proposed measures for substitution of chemical or for process optimization. What can be done? We can optimize current chemical which is in use, like in metal processing, or we can substitute chemical that is this other confectionery producer. We can change or substitute chemical and optimize production process. Now we come to testing of identified option. What was very important to have a plan, what to do, what to test and how to assess it. First of all, costs. Team needs to decide about cost sharing, and from our experience, supplier supply for free chemicals for free, and user pays for other raw materials like energy, water, and other. That is usually, let's say. About liability, Reinhard will tell something about that more, and also occupational health and safety requirements need to be agreed upon between partners. Testing of identifying options means also testing of unit of payment. The unit of payment now should be analyzed and verified in practice. It is very, very important. If we cannot measure, record, and demonstrate unit of payment, we cannot talk about chemical leasing, because if we are talking about units of payment, we are talking about money. So we have to have exact numbers, measures, record, and also we should demonstrate it. Testing within the defined options may be the most time-consuming part of chemical leasing implementation in this phase, because as I have already mentioned, in confectionery producer, we have so many different kinds of boxes to be bonded, and we have to test in different days. We have to have different measures. In some cases, testing is not possible before contract signing. Why? This is a case of bottling company. They have to change equipment. So it is really not possible to do testing before contract signing. That's why they would like to be so sure about their results before chemical leasing. But at the end of the testing process, companies should agree on the price per unit of payments, and also how to verify number of units of payments. It is very important not to talk only about chemical price before, if it is new or if it is the same, because in calculation you have to have in mind are included costs for energy, for water, and so on. And potential savings that can be achieved under chemical leasing should be considered. It is very important to say. In some cases, people are thinking only about chemicals. At the end of the day, we come to chemical leasing contracts. Reinhard will tell you something more about that. But beside other provisions, chemical contracts should include average consumption. That is very important. So, that is why our testing is really important. Average consumption of chemical per unit of payments, and also percentage of variation, because you cannot say I always will use 0.2 grams of adhesive, for example, but this has to be plus minus. Of course, price, way of verifying the number of units to be paid, liability, cost sharing, if there are some investments, confidentiality, very important, contract modification, and also monitoring. We are coming to step 3. We started to implement chemical leasing business model, and now we should evaluate and monitoring the results. What is that? That is comparing baseline data and current data to see if we achieve what are the real savings, have our targets been met, and is there need to modify the contract. In our cases, we haven't that experience. Our contracts were not changed, and on the right-hand side, you can see results from metal processing company before and after chemical leasing. So their results are really good. And also, it is very important to highlight that monitoring results must be well documented and communicated between partners, and they might form the basis for later contract modifications, but we didn't have such an experience. What should happen or can happen that is also our experience in these two cases. Bottling company and confectionery company, they started with one line, but today in bottling company, they all lines are covered, 6 lines, they have 6 lines, all lines are covered by chemical leasing. That was also happened in confectionery company. But we can have also other case, not only to expand chemical leasing of the same chemical and process, but to expand it to whole company. We started, in this case, we started with lubrication of PET packaging line. After that comes washing of returnable glass bottles and surface cleaning. So in this case, all processes that are covered by chemicals are under chemical leasing business model. I hope I tried to explain you this process in 20 minutes. Of course, it takes much more time. And thank you very much. I will ask my colleague, our colleague, Steffen Saecker, to give us his presentation on a real case study. Thank you so much.
Steffen, the floor is yours. Wonderful to have you here. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you very much, Petra, and thank you very much for the opportunity to present our business case, the SafeChem business case of chemical leasing to you. And I would like to take you on a journey, actually. Yeah, and the journey is like how we started with chemical leasing and how the business model developed over time, and what our learnings were, because I think that's most important and interesting for the participants to understand what we learned on this journey towards a scale up of the business model. Yeah, but first of all, who is SafeChem? We are a chemical product service provider focused on solvents as the chemical and a whole range of services around this chemical product. And SafeChem was founded almost 30 years ago, beginning of the 90s, by the Dow Chemical Company and a recycling company. So it was a joint venture initially because the circular economy concept was from the beginning part of the service offering. And today we are standalone in the market, backed up by private equity, and are serving 3 different applications. And let me start with that. So the first application and the largest one, and we heard something about it already from Vojka in the presentation before, is surface cleaning. So cleaning of metal components, mainly where high precision cleaning is required. So we talk about automotive industry, aerospace industry, medical equipment, and a whole wide range of demanding industries that we are serving, and also a whole range of different sizes of companies, from SMEs to larger international corporations. The second application is textile cleaning, where we serve textile cleaning, dry cleaning shops with our products and services to enable modern and state-of-the-art textile cleaning. And the third application is asphalt analytics. That's a lab application where asphalt is analyzed. So the bitumen is extracted from the asphalt and is analyzed in terms of quality of the asphalt. The focus today is mainly on the surface cleaning segment, because I will highlight how we implemented chemical leasing in that specific segment. So how do we go to market? The applications on the bottom, and I said chemical product service provider. So the basis of this house of cleaning solutions, as we call it, is the chemical product. So you see a range of different solvents here, chlorinated and non-chlorinated solvents, depending on what exactly the cleaning task at the customer is. And the first service element, if you like, is the SafeTainer system, which is a specially designed safety container system for virtually emission-free transfer of the solvent in the machine and out of the machine, safe storage, safe transport, so that there are virtually no emissions to the environment. And the next layer is a whole range of services. I talked about circular economy, so we take back the waste solvent, the used solvent, for professional recycling. And we offer a whole range of testing devices and restabilization devices, from test kits to stabilizer concentrates, in order to prolong the lifetime of the solvent in the machine, and we will see some figures on the impact here. Then we share knowledge, because we see that these days knowledge sharing becomes more and more important, and I think what we are doing here is nothing else than that. So we have under the brand name ChemAware, an information platform on the web. We offer trainings to our customers. We offer webinars more than ever these days, and a whole range of lab services to give more detailed recommendations on how to treat the cleaning bath. And then, as we call it, the rooftop terrace of this house is the full service concept, so complete chemical leasing, which really combines all these different elements and then changing, as we will see, the mode of invoicing towards the customer to make it a real sound solution. So what is the process? Just to illustrate that a bit to you, what you see here on the left-hand side, the safe-tainer system for fresh solvent is supplied to the customer, safe supply, risk managed, and the solvent is then transferred into the cleaning machine. Those are these days hermetically sealed, closed cleaning machines. And inside of the cleaning machine is already the first and most important circular economy aspect, because the solvent is continuously running into cycles within the machine. So the machine has an internal distillation unit, and the customer is able to use the solvent again and again and again, in many cases over multiple years even, if he knows how to test, so how to monitor the solvent, how to stabilize properly, and he is educated and has the knowledge how to do that. And then the solvent or the used solvent in another safe-tainer system is taken back and is channeled into external recycling. So the process is extremely optimized at the customer side, and the result of that is that we sell less chemicals, obviously. Yeah, so the sales generated by the chemical product itself are going down continuously over time, and are going down actually since almost 30 years that SafeChem is active in the market. But what goes up at the same time is what we call here sustainable solutions, so product plus the service that we are offering. And that brings us from a volume orientation, selling more product to the market, to a performance orientation. How much cleaning can you actually achieve with 1 kilogram of solvent? And that is driving the sustainability of the business. To make that a little bit more tangible, I would like to take you to some figures here. And this is taken from a study which was done by the European Commission in 2006 on chemical product services in the European Union. And what you can see here is where we come from. Yeah, 30 years ago, open machines were state of the art in the market, and you needed more than 750 kilos of solvent to remove 100 kilos of oil. So 100 kilos of oil is here always the reference. Why? Because very high air emissions and a high solvent content in the waste stream. This moved to closed equipment because of emission standards that were established. So the machines were, as I said, hermetically sealed, which brought it down to 160 kilos because the air emissions were controlled. And when you then applied what we are doing, CPS, chemical product services, on top of that closed machine, it's possible to bring it further down on just 15 kilos to do exactly the same job, remove 100 kilos of oil, because we were able to reduce the solvent in the waste stream considerably by offering these services. And what we found, if we take it even a step further and offer the whole solution within chemical leasing, we can bring it even further down to just 4 kilograms of solvent to do exactly the same job, removing 100 kilos of oil. So at the end, a tremendous optimization here in this specific case of more than 99% compared from the old open top technology. And how did we start with chemical leasing? Well, the first pilot project was established in 2005. It's already, or it's also part of this book, which some of you might have seen, where it was one of the case studies. So we did this one together with the machine manufacturer. So Pero is one of the producers of this closed hermetically sealed cleaning equipment, and together we were working here with a specially founded company, Pero Innovative Services. We delivered the chemical solution, Pero delivered the machine, and together we achieved a reduction of the solvent consumption, even compared to a closed machine, which was used before, by more than 70% on the solvents, but also more than 70% on the stabilizer, which is already a service component to optimize the process. So you can see that even on the service side, you can further optimize if you apply such a business model. And then because we work together with a machine manufacturer, we also have the data here on the equipment side. So there were more than 50% of energy savings and more than 60% on savings of maintenance cost. So that was the initial starting project. And on this one, we were still having a unit of payment, which was per cleaned part. And what we found is that in our specific case, this was becoming super complex. Vojka already mentioned how many different type of pieces such metalworking companies have. And we had endless spreadsheets for calculating the fees for different parts and different basket sizes, etc., that we learned from this pilot. We need to work on another way for the mode or for the unit of payment. So what did we do then? Well, we worked on these things like unit of payment, but we also worked on how to communicate this business model to the customers. You have seen these arrows here before. This is describing how the business model works, how you align the incentives, that both parties want to increase the performance and the efficiency of the process, because the mode of invoicing is changed from a per kilogram invoicing, in our case, to a monthly fee. Yeah, so we also go with this time unit. And with that, everyone in the process, every party has the same incentive to optimize the performance and efficiency. And then we came up with this nice sustainability in a can approach, because we said chemical leasing is so abstract, you need to have something tangible also from a communication point of view. And we said, okay, what do we drive? We drive sustainability. And then from a customer's point of view, they can focus on what they can really good, which is innovate and bring new products, new metal products, sometimes the best in the world. But that is their core competence. So they have time for innovation. They also have a simplified financial planning at the same time, and they are increasing the sustainability. So we had for our customers those as the real main arguments, followed by many more, of course, if you go into detail. And if you want to find out more how we position it, there's a link to the complete video on YouTube. And when you receive the slides later on, you can click that and learn a little bit more in a video format. So then we had a second project together with Vojka, actually, and Branko in Serbia, where we worked together with a local distributor, because he did the local storage of the products, and together we brought a chemical leasing concept then to the customer FKL. There's a case study available, so more detail on that one as well. And here we were able to realize a reduction in solvent use of 80%, 90% even on the waste side, and 10% savings on the cost side. So what you can see here is that, of course, you don't save the same cost because the whole offering is different. You have a lot more services involved to optimize the process. So the cost structure changes from a pure solvent consumption to a product plus service concept. But at the end, you still save cost compared to the previous process and potentially save a lot of chemicals at the same time. So summarizing our learnings from those cases, and then our conclusions for the scale up. Yeah, so as I said, this was 2010. And what we saw as opportunities is, first of all, a really increased customer intimacy. So we know a lot better the customer's process, because we look in it together, we see where can we optimize, where are the levers to really change things and bring it to a more efficient setting. We intensified product stewardship, yeah, so we can really bring this mindset of safety, of EH&S and product stewardship much more into the customer. We are able to implement best practices with this model. So for chemical leasing customers, we are only working with best practice offerings in terms of safety system, stabilizer package, etc. And of course, differentiation versus competition is also an important aspect of the business model. But it came with challenges as well. And the first one is trust versus contract, I called it here, because you can do a lot with contracts, of course, and a lot of things have to be in contracts to be legally on the safe side. But no matter what, you always need to create trust at the beginning of such a relationship, because the customer has to be open to change his way of doing things and to go into such a business model, even if there is a solid contract behind it. Then a challenge for us was ownership of chemicals, because we are not the whole time at the customers. We don't have the full control over the chemicals. So if something potentially happens, we cannot take the full responsibility or liability for it. So we work with the concept from the beginning where the title changes to the customer. The incentives of the model itself remain unchanged by that, but the ownership of the chemicals moves to the customer. Appropriate unit of payment, I already addressed that. We tried to invoice per cleaned part. We changed that to a monthly invoice because of the tremendous complexity of this other method. And then we found the challenges in terms of ERP systems, because ERP systems are, of course, programmed after the old paradigm, right? You have volume, you have a price, and volume times price makes revenue. And suddenly you disconnect volume from the monthly fee that you invoice. And the system has a hard time to make that happen. So we had to scale it up. Yeah, we had the challenge to also look into how the ERP system works. And the other thing is monitoring, because you want to enable customers and ourselves in easy monitoring of the system. And in the meantime, we don't have the time to go into that in detail, but in the meantime, we have a smart service app, which the customer has on an iPad and can easily monitor the performance of his chemical leasing setup. And what we saw, and that comes from all these challenges that we had to tackle, in our case, it was absolutely necessary in order to scale up the business model to have a dedicated resource driving that. And this is how we went about it. So we had a person who was really dedicated to this business model to scale it up. And today we have several hundreds of customers on this business model already. So the scale up really took place. And to conclude, and I know I have to be conscious of time here, just some quotes here from customers. So this is Aircell, which is part of the Safran Group, so one of the larger aerospace companies, who is on chemical leasing since several years already. Said the process life cycle has become extremely reliable and efficient. And this is Leonardo Helicopters. And they combine, this is one I like very much, because they combine both the financial perspective, but also the environmental one, and see the benefit of these two elements here. Yeah, and finally, my last slide. With this business model, we have also been recognized very much over the years. We received the Global Chemical Leasing Award from UNIDO, but also NGOs like WWF highlighted SafeChem as a green game changer. and UNEP, the German Environmental Ministry, Satric, etc. So you can see that this was really leading to a lot of recognition and publications about showcasting the SafeCare model as a best practice model. And with that, I would thank you very much for your attention.
Thank you very much, Steffen. It's really always fascinating to listen to your presentation. Thanks a lot for this. And it seems that the Chemical Leasing Award trickled down to a lot of more awards. So we should invite all the participants to really apply for the award if they want to have more awards later on. So thanks a lot for the presentation and for the time, for keeping the time. I would now like to invite Reinhard Joas and also Luis Umanzor. Both are UNIDO experts on chemical leasing. Reinhard has been with us since the start of the program. Luis started in the center in El Salvador, the Center for Cleaner Production El Salvador, and is now with us in Vienna working on further promoting chemical leasing. So I will pass on the floor to you, that you give us an overview on the sustainability criteria. Because remember, chemical leasing should lead to environmental and to economic savings. So, and there we always have to see also how can we monitor the performance of every case. And you will also have to apply the sustainability criteria when you apply for the award. So please, Reinhard, the floor is yours.
Yes, thank you very much, Petra. Hello, everybody. So in the previous contribution, Steffen Saecker already several times mentioned sustainability. And the whole business model, what has been explained to you now, is based on the idea that with a better collaboration between a user and a supplier of chemicals under this new business model, a triple win situation will be generated. A win situation for the supplier, for the user of the chemicals, and for the environment. And this is really the fascinating effect of chemical leasing, that as Steffen mentioned, when a supplier is now providing 4 kilograms, where in former times he had provided 750 kilograms for the same use, he is making now better profits with the 4 kilogram instead of the 750 kilogram. And the user is having a better cost position. And as so many chemicals are saved, of course, there are less emissions, there is less waste, and the environment profits as well. So the international community has put all these requested effects into sustainability criteria. It was a team composed of ministries, of industry, of academia, of various experts that defined quite in the beginning a set of criteria that need to be fulfilled, that this business model is really sustainable. And you see on this slide, there is a first criterion, what we call reduction of adverse impacts for environment, health, energy, and resource consumption caused by chemicals and their application in production processes. That means the core of the business model is, I repeat myself here, that with a better and more targeted collaboration between the partners, a reduction of the consumption takes place. And this reduction then has the environmental impacts and has the important general benefits of this business model. However, if you focus on a more efficient use of chemicals, some might have the idea to come again with old, nasty, hazardous, but very efficient chemicals as a solution. And this means there is a potential risk that such chemicals enter the game because you might need less of these chemicals, but it would not have a positive impact on the environment. So the team for developing the sustainability criteria came to the conclusion that it is essential to follow also the second criteria, what it means, no substitution of chemicals by substances with a higher risk. To be very clear on this, you can have a substitution of a chemical in a chemical leasing process, but then the new chemical should have a lower risk and not a higher risk to the involved workers and to the environment. So sustainability in the sense of the three dimensions, environment, social and economic dimension, is requesting that such a substitution does not take place. I just mentioned the social dimension of sustainability, and this finds its way in the third criterion, what we call improved handling and storage of chemicals to prevent and minimize risks. Many accidents occur around the world by improper handling and improper storage of chemicals. And so with chemical leasing, where we have this more intensive collaboration between the partners, the idea is to improve it and in this way contribute to social benefits for the partners. We already discussed several times about the fourth criterion, economic and social benefits are generated. That a fair and transparent sharing of the benefits is necessary, because this is then a basis that this business model holds for a long time if there is a fair sharing in the economic benefits of the achievement. And the fifth criterion is that a monitoring of the improvement needs to be possible. It cannot be that this is just a flight in the fog. It should be transparent, it should be clear, and also the whole process and the whole new collaboration is designed on a continuous improvement, and this continuous improvement requires monitoring. So these are the 5 key sustainability criteria, and these criteria have now been translated into sub-criteria and indicators that you can apply for your individual project. So if you are having a project or if you're designing a project, then these criteria need to be fulfilled, and to check it, the criteria have been further elaborated into sub-criteria and into indicators, and UNIDO has developed here together with the German authorities a new tool, what is called Smart 5, what is very easy to handle and to show that a chemical leasing project is fulfilling sustainability and that these criteria are verified. And I give you just a quick overview here, and then my colleague Luis will go more in detail on how this tool works. Again, the basic principle is these overall criteria, like here, reduction of adverse impacts, are broken down to sub-criteria. This means reduction of emissions or pollutants into air, reduction of emissions of pollutants into wastewater, and so on. And then it's translated into indicators which you can check, like what happens with nitrogen oxides, ammonia, sulfur dioxide, heavy metals, and others, what makes it very concrete and applicable for your case. Having said this, I will give now the floor to Luis to give you some more views, insights into the Smart 5 tool.
Thank you very much, Reinhard. Yes, I will continue with the part of the indicator checklist. Now, as Reinhard explained, this criteria was developed to in a way, showcase the sustainability of the business model and how it impacts positively in all the aspects, environment, economy of a company, hazard, and also in continuous improvement. So what is important with the indicator checklist is that you have to fill in this indicator for the application of the award. So basically, the indicator checklist is the 5 criteria, the 5 sustainability criteria, and then you will find the sub-criteria, and then you will have to check on these to see whether this the implementation of the chemical leasing had an impact on all the sustainability criteria previously mentioned. So, for example, if you have for example, you have a reduction of adverse impacts, and in your process, while implementing chemical leasing, you reduce the use of ammonia, you have to check whether you decrease this or not. However, it's not necessary that you will check all the different sub-criteria, because maybe in your process, you don't have this. So in the next slide, you will see more. Reinhard, could you please? In the next slide, you will also see other pollutants, including not only to the air, but also in the wastewater. So you have to see where you are implementing the chemical leasing, then in which process, then it will have different impacts on different pollutants emitted or in different waste emitted. So also solid waste can be affected or not. Next slide. Also, we found that many times while implementing chemical leasing, there is a positive impact on the consumption of energy. So you can have more efficient processes, and usually more efficient processes mean that you will have more energy efficient processes. So you just need to check and report, and in the comment sections, you can include the amount reduced. Now, in the next slide, you will see regarding the substitution of chemicals. Now, this is important because one thing that is really necessary while implementing chemical leasing is to make sure that the chemicals you substitute are not more hazardous than the ones you have substituted. So I can just tell you about an example from previous year. We received this application, which was very good. They were going to change one cleaner agent for another one, which is great. But then when we checked the safety data sheet, we could see that the substance that they were trying to substitute was more dangerous. So one of the most important things here, and in the implementation of chemical leasing and in any management of chemicals, you have to have the MSDS available. And then you can, in these MSDS, you will find the characteristics and hazards that substances have, and then you can take decisions, and then you can also check the sustainability criteria. Now, on the next slide, you will see the improvement of handling and storage. This is also very important because many accidents in the chemical industry can happen in the storage or in the while they're being managed. So also the safety data sheets are very important in this case because you can identify not only the risks, but also the qualities of the product and how to store it. And then you can also have your own storage and handling measures, and then they have to be checked whether you have more accidents, you're reporting these, the severity, etc. Now, in the next slide, you will continue with the exposure of workers. As we know, the risk, it's important. Now, as Reinhard mentioned, you also have the social and economic benefits. Now, what is necessary here, it's how to differentiate between supplier and user. Maybe for you will be easier, for a user will be easier to report on the costs reduced, and for the supplier it will be easier to report on the economic performance. So you have to, this will depend on if you are a supplier or a user. And then in the next slide, we will talk about the monitoring and improvements. This is, you know, as Reinhard mentioned, to make sure that you have the proper indicators and also establish the process to monitor the implementation of chemical leasing. So these are the 5 points of the sustainability criteria. Thank you very much. So let Petra, please, to continue with the next.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Luis. Just to stay in time, I will immediately pass on the floor to Reinhard to talk about the contractual arrangements in chemical leasing business models. And thank you all for a lot of questions we have already. Thanks a lot. So let's continue. Reinhard, the floor is yours.
Yeah, thank you very much, Petra. We are a little bit behind schedule, but I think I can catch this up with contractual requirements. This section of the webinar is really rather concrete for those that have already started a chemical leasing project and now want to fix things in a contract. And again, and I can just highlight what Steffen Saecker said. There are 3 key elements for a successful chemical leasing. First, there is a potential to use chemicals in a more efficient way. If this is not possible, then chemical leasing does not work. And most important, if there is a potential, then you need a trustful collaboration between the partners. This is the core, a new trustful collaboration, then the benefits and the triple win situation will happen. And third, a fair contract to balance the interest, and this contract in a way should bring solutions for unforeseen cases. But please keep in mind what is written on this slide. Even the best contract can just accompany the trustful collaboration between the partners. That means a contract is important, but chemical leasing is mainly based that you have a good and fruitful collaboration with your partners. So I will go briefly now through the core elements of a contract and just highlight what we consider is necessary and give you some recommendations. Normally such a session would need much more time if it goes into detail. So this is just an aperitif for you in order to get the key elements, and you're invited to ask further questions if you need more details. So we would say in a contract, the definition and the description of services should be mentioned. What is the contract about? And so it is recommendable to describe the common targets and the nature of the contract. It's a performance-based business model. It's not just selling material like in the past. It has this idea to have a new type of collaboration and to pay for the performance of a chemical. Then another contract topic is who will carry out which tasks. Our recommendation is define different phases of the contract. A first phase, like Volker has explained, about testing, about identification of the potential, about how to do the process optimization, and we will and we would recommend also to have then a separate phase, what is really the implementation, what means the running of the business model for a longer period. And the tasks of the different partners can be depending from case to case, very different. And so it's essential that the main tasks, who is doing what, are mentioned here in the contract. Then there is a distribution of responsibilities. Of course, it's about delivering chemicals, delivering services. So the unit of payment and the terms of payment need to be fixed. And based on several hundred cases, we would recommend that the unit of payment needs to be really very clearly defined and to be designed as simple as possible. Because if, as Steffen Saecker mentioned, if you are making it too complex, then it will be difficult during implementation. So both partners should understand this new unit of payment and should have a fair opportunity to monitor it. Other typical elements of a contract are place of jurisdiction. I don't mention and go into detail here. Duration of the agreement. This is important. Chemical leasing is not working if you want to have a contract just for a few weeks. Chemical leasing is based on a longer type of collaboration. So our recommendation is, as a general idea, don't make contracts with a very short period. We would say at least 1 year from the start, in order to have a fair chance to develop the processes, to optimize the processes, to get everybody used on the new way of dealing with things. If times are too short in the contract and if everything is done in a rush, it will not work well. Other points for the contract are right of withdrawal and contract termination. So this is up to the partners how they want to define the rules there. Terms of delivery of chemicals, how often, how big is the storage, this should be also there. I will not go into details. And then another important aspect is sharing of potential investments and contribution. This goes back to what I initially said about the different tasks of each partner. And this depends very much about who is bringing which type of investment, which type of effort into this new collaboration. And this has then also something to do how finally the benefits are shared. And our recommendation here is include planned values about who is doing what and what are the different contributions, but open it up for the option to modify to the real situation, to have a bit of a living contract, not everything written in stone, but flexible based on how the situation of the collaboration develops. Further points, allocation of the benefits generated. Again, same thing, include planned values, but be open for a modification according to the real situation. Then rules of cooperation. This is something important and not obvious for the first moment, but it is necessary to define rules for unplanned overconsumption of chemicals by the user, as this might heavily impact the supplier if all of a sudden consumption goes up very high. And so this needs to be addressed in the contract. For example, penalties for the user can be included if unplanned overconsumption, unforeseen use of chemical takes place. Two more very important points. One is liability and warranty. This needs to be defined separately for each partner. That means who is responsible for what and how far goes the warranty for each partner. And again, this would be an own webinar to talk about all aspects of liability and warranty. I would like to summarize it in one sentence. At the beginning of chemical leasing, partners are extremely worried about liability and warranty. And when chemical leasing is implemented, it nearly never showed up to be really a problem. So this is something everybody is afraid in the beginning. It needs to be addressed in the contract, but our experiences with more than 15 years is it has never shown up to be really a big problem. Last point here is confidentiality. Again, something where partners are very cautious at the beginning, and it needs to be addressed in the contract because, of course, it's a new type of collaboration. It's much more intensive. So both partners get more knowledge out of the know-how of the other partner. And so a fair treatment and taking care about confidentiality is essential to keep the trust of this. I have already addressed some of these points under liability and know-how leakage, a few more questions and a few more points of what might be addressed here. This goes now one level deeper, and it explains to you liability. You can differ into damages to site, quality problems regarding the manufactured products, health, environmental impacts, and for know-how, you can see again how this can be split into different points. And this is just a little bit of insight on the experiences UNIDO has collected over the years, and we are open to share these experiences with you if you need support. But UNIDO will never interfere directly into a contract. A contract is something where you define the rules between the two partners, and UNIDO will just support both partners about the elements that should be addressed, but how you address it is depending on your negotiation skills and your individual business case. So I think I catched up the time. I know it was very dense and very intensive, but again, the invitation, as Petra has originally mentioned, if you have questions, if you need more details, send us an email, use the chat function, and we will come back to you with separate answers. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Reinhard. Great, we are in time again. Maybe 1 minute late, but that's absolutely fine. Thank you also for giving the details on the contracts, which is really an essential part of chemical leasing. So please carefully read those and read the slides. And if you have questions on the contract, please come back to us. I'm now going to introduce Branko Dunjic, who is the director of the National Cleaner Production Center in Serbia. And Branko is going to talk about the monitoring requirements for chemical leasing, which is quite important. And I already see some of the questions also related to risks of chemicals and how do we deal with this. So please, Branko, the floor is yours. And of course, also the criteria, the sustainability criteria refer to the risk of chemicals. Thank you very much, Branko.
Hello, everybody. I hope you can hear me okay. And it's a big pleasure to be a part of this webinar. And I will try to shorten my presentation because I see that there are a lot of questions, and maybe we can use this time to answer your questions. Why monitoring is important? You've heard from the beginning until now for this 1 hour or so, you heard what is the chemical leasing, why do you enter chemical leasing, what is the main idea of unit of payment, etc., etc. And then you enter into this contractual arrangement with partner or partners, and then you want to know what did you actually do. You have seen in the first presentation given by my colleague Vojka some results of the monitoring, and here I'd like to give you a little bit of systematic approach how you can use some tools which were developed by UNIDO and German environmental agency to document those results. So what is the monitoring about? What is the goal? Goal is as you can see on this slide, is are you actually having any improvements? And if yes, how much improvement are you making? Are you achieving your goals? Then based on those results and monitoring results and data, you can take the decision for your future, whether it will be to stop chemical leasing or to continue. In our experience, 90% of chemical leasing contracts are continued, and then you can continue with improvement because this is one of the sustainability criteria. And then the last but not least, you should inform each other if you are talking about supplier and user, or as in SafeChem case, also machine producer. You can inform, at least you have to share this information with the partners, but we encourage you, you can share this with the wider community so you can first show that you are using this business model in a smart way, and then you can also help the others to improve, to introduce this business model. The steps are very logical. You have to collect data, you have to analyze them, and if the business partners agree, you can share and publish results. The first step is to collect data on a regular basis. And as you have seen in the previous presentation, it should be included in the contract. How much monitoring is done, in which intervals, who is doing, who is in charge of that, who will pay for it, etc., etc. We recommend here that monitoring phase is from 3 to 12 months. The longer is the better, but we don't want to exaggerate. So you go, and as Vojka said, one of the most important things before signing chemical leasing agreement is collecting the data to draw the baseline. Baseline means how much chemicals I'm using now, how much money I'm spending for chemicals, or for a supplier, how much money I'm earning, how much chemicals I'm selling. So you are going basically to use more or less the same data, and we will recommend, if you are collecting those data, to use Smart 5 tool, which is very simple, straightforward Excel table in which you can enter those data, and you will calculate the indicators. And you will see now, have you achieved the indicators and targets that you set before or not? Then, as I said, this timeline should be agreed in the contract, and the results should be documented, and we encourage you to use the Smart 5 tool. Step 2 is also very important. If you don't analyze your data, it doesn't make sense. But you have now your data after 6 months or 3 months of implementation of chemical leasing, and then you can answer the questions. Did we achieve any savings from economical, environmental, and social aspects? Did we achieve the targets? And do we need to modify the contract? Is the unit of payment good or not? You've heard in SafeChem case that maybe number of pieces cleaned is not the best unit of payment. Then you can modify it. And the results is true understanding what are the real achievements, because it's true that we are promoting this business model for 10 years, but we want to know the real data and the real achievements. We don't want to sell empty story. Then you can take the decision whether we need to improve the monitoring. What data do we need extra? are we missing some benefits, etc.? Then we can continue optimizing the processes, and if necessary, we can adjust the price unit of payment. And the step 3, I said it's optional for wider public, but it is obligatory, of course, between the partners. If you know whether you are doing a good job, are you doing any job, is switching from quantity to performance-based payment is giving you any results, and why? And of course, it is the best way for you, for your bosses, or if you are consultant and listening to me, to present the case to other potential clients, is to compare the situation before and after chemical leasing using a Smart 5 tool. In the using Smart 5 tool, you will have economic figures, you will have environmental improvements, and you will have safety and health improvements. Safety and health improvements are very often neglected because, you know, purchase manager, technical manager, they are dealing with, you know, technical stuff. But sometimes, as in the case in, for example, in Serbia, when we changed one lubricant to dry lubricant, we reduced number of accidents greatly. And now, before going to giving the floor to Luis about Chemical Leasing Award, if you are using Smart 5 tool, we are just recommending you can use your information system, you can use your data collection system, but it is the best way if you start in the right way and use this Smart 5 Excel file. With this, you are doing your main job, and you are also, if you are successful, you can apply for a Chemical Leasing Award and then to promote this achievement if you want. Of course, we don't push our partners to come forward and to say what are the achievements, but it is always good to inform local community, your government, etc. Here is the concrete examples of monitoring. The first criterion, as you heard in sustainability criteria, for example, reduction of adverse impacts, bonding all boxes, you heard Vojka speaking, and also we have an example of a hotel. You can, if you're interested, you can go to a chemical leasing website and see what are the achievements there. You can see that in here you can show exactly how much chemicals or energy or waste, how much of these are saved. You can see that, for example, in hotel in Rio, the reduction of chemicals was really spectacular. The second criterion, for example, here we concentrated on safety data sheets. They are available. I saw one question, how do we say that the chemical is not more toxic than the other? We can find this information in safety data sheets. The third criterion, and if you are looking this, and if you remember Luis' presentation, it's a checkbox, like in a cockpit of airplane. You check, did I check this? Did I check this? So in the third criterion, you make sure that if there was substitution of chemicals, because you don't have to do it obligatory, then you provide that there is no substitution of chemicals by substances with a higher risk. And you can see in this slide that is in the cases of both companies. In one, we didn't have any substitution, but then we, in the one that we had, we didn't have, we improved adhesive by less toxic, and also we reduced risk. Then fourth and fifth criterion is economic and social benefits. Here, I didn't put, and we didn't put absolute numbers, but you can see the costs. It's very important for partners. We are speaking about business model. The cost in, for example, in Rio, were reduced just simply by switching from selling of quantity of chemicals to buying service. They reduced, a hotel in Rio de Janeiro reduced the cost for chemicals for 76%. And in the bonding of boxes, because we are using better chemical now, less toxic better performing maintenance costs are down 72%. And final criterion is very often you can reduce consumption in, in one step, but then it stays the same. If chemical leasing contract is good, if the partners trust to each other, if they know each other very well, they share experiences, and then they continually decrease consumption of chemicals and increase benefits. Final slide is that if you are a consultant, you should try to monitor, to work with companies to monitor systematically benefits, because you can promote the knowledge and experience and acquire new companies for you. If you are a business, then you, of course, you know what you are doing. And if you are satisfied, you can go public, and you can inform everybody who is interested how, just by switching from quantity-based payment to performance-based payments, you achieved economic, environmental, and social benefits. Of course, last but not least, you should apply then for a Global Chemical Leasing Award 2021. And with this, I'd like to give the floor back to Petra.
Thank you very much, Branko. Very interesting presentation. At the center, the Cleaner Production Center Survey has been working with us for many years already on chemical leasing. And Branko not only worked in Southeastern Europe, but also in other countries with us. So let's come to the award. This is our last presentation. Luis, please give us some insights on this. Thank you very much.
Yeah, hello everyone. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, good. So thank you very much for participating in the webinar. So I have the fun part to present the award and how to apply. So just a brief history of the award. UNIDO is being organized in the Chemical Leasing Award since 2010. The main goal is to showcase the commitment of the managers and companies, as well as consultants and researchers involved in chemical leasing, and also to present the best, the best examples, the best approaches and ideas. So based on this, we had organized the Global Chemical Leasing Award 2020. However, the current situation we are living with the COVID-19. So for this reason, it was moved until next year for July. So the award ceremony will take place in Bonn from the 5 to 9 of July. The award is co-sponsored by UNIDO, the governments of Austria, Germany, Switzerland, and the Federation of European Chemicals Distributors. The application period is open until 15 of December 2020, and you can always find more information on the chemicalleasing.org website. So this year we will have 3 main categories, 2 special awards and 1 special recognition. The first category is the case study, which is either for suppliers or for is either for suppliers or is either for users. So this is aimed for companies that already started the implementation of the chemical leasing. This means that you already have a contract and that you can, in a way, present the results of the implementation of the model. You can present each separately, the supplier and the user. The important thing here is that both can showcase the benefits from both sides of the model. One for the user as the savings, and the other one as the supplier, as I see many questions regarding the benefits of this. And then we have the category of innovation. This is for case studies that have shown technical solutions that have already demonstrated a potential to a new state of the art. So in here we have like already implemented business plans, startups. And what is important here is that when you check the application form, you will find different levels of innovation, whether it's on different management practices or new products or substitution of products. So it is defined there, so you can have more guidance of what is considered innovation. Then on the research category, this is for research or development activities that in a way have a link with chemical leasing. They can be new products or new processes. This is very interesting because from our experience from previous awards, most of the time people who are producing new products see the opportunity to enter into the market by using chemical leasing because they have faith in the product and they think that this will be a good way to, you know, to gain a client. But it's not also only limited to new products or new processes. They also business concepts, some papers and lectures and curricula on chemical leasing. One of the winners of last year was a curriculum in a university in Ukraine. It's very important because when you see at the end the impact that the curriculum has in the amount of students that will be trained on chemical leasing, it was a very good case and a very good example. Then we will have 2 special awards, one for women-led initiatives. This is very interesting because in the previous award we have identified that many times chemical leasing, it's also initiated by women, you know, so it's time to recognize them. And then for startups, we also see that there are many startups in the innovation and research category that see a way, you know, to compete maybe with bigger companies to commit to a chemical leasing contract. And then there is one special recognition for that we denominated champions. This is for those companies, those case studies that have a long-standing commitment with chemical leasing, as an example, SafeChem, that have at least 5 years implementing the model. And they will be, this is a special recognition given by the jury that this will be assigned during the jury meeting. On how to apply, so basically what we always recommend to you is that you check the definition of chemical leasing and find out if you already have, because of the time, it's better if you already have ongoing this, a model like this business model. And that's why we have also included another performance-based business models in the definition this year, because as you can see, maybe you are already doing chemical leasing, but you don't call it that way. So once you have in line the definition, you can check the background information and the evaluation criteria. Below, I will give you the links to all this. You have to complete the application form. There will be applications forms for the 3 main categories. And in each category, you can apply to the special award. So there are specific spaces that you have to fill in, whether you're a women-led initiative or a startup. And then you also need to fill in the indicator checklist. And extend as much as possible and attach as many documents as you think that in a way will help your application. And then you send the application to the email chemicalleasing@unido.org. In that way, we will receive it. Don't forget to attach all the relevant documents and the complete application form. Now, one important note, it's that the organizers of chemical leasing treat all the information that we received as highly confidential. This means that we will not make public anything that is shared with us, and nor the companies or anything, unless you agree with it. So basically, sometimes there are very good cases that we think it's worth to showcase and do it a case study. So in this case, we will contact you directly and request your permission to do so. Otherwise, we will not do it, and we will not share this information with anybody. Now, what documents are to be submitted? As I said before, the application form completely filled out. This is very important. Try to have as many numbers as possible, relative and absolute numbers. So for example, if you have savings on chemicals, you can present kilograms and or cubic meters, but also the percentage it represents. I know that in the economic benefits, sometimes companies can be a bit reluctant to share this information. It's okay, you can share the percentages, but it would be better if you present absolute numbers of the savings, of the benefits that you have having. As I said, this is we treat this as confidential, so this information will never leave this. Then the indicator checklist, as I explained before, you have to check every single thing, not everything, not all criteria you will have to check, but you need to send it. Then one important thing that you always have to send is the MSDS of the chemicals involved in the performance-based business model. This is very important because then we can identify also if we can verify whether the information you're sharing is correct, and then we can also do our own researches on the substances, especially if you are talking about the substitution of one substance to the other one. And then, as I said before, any document that you consider relevant. In the case for research, if you are applying with a paper, please include the paper. In the case for curriculum, please include the curriculum. If it's in another language and you have a document, a big document in another language, like a thesis or a research paper, what we request is you submit the complete document, and then you submit a summary, an executive summary in English, so that the rest can see what is it about. You can also translate it if you have the time. And then also the MSDS, they need to be in English. So you identify the substance, and then I'm 100% sure the chemical supplier will have the MSDS in English. Then some important links. I need to, just as a final thing, you need to access to the chemical leasing.org, and then you will find the Global Chemical Leasing 2021. Here you will see instructions, the deadlines, and you will also find the different categories and the information to download. Here you will find the links to the application forms of each category, to the sustainability indicator checklist, and to the background information. Regarding the background information, please make sure you read it. It is explained there what is needed to fill in the application, and it is also explained the categories and everything, so that you know where to apply when you're applying to the award. So as I see, we have several questions. So I will leave this. I will invite you all to apply. The deadline for application is December 15. So we have enough time to apply for the award. If you are a company and you don't know how to apply, please, you can contact us to the chemical leasing at UNIDO.org, or you can also contact different cleaner production centers and experts that we have all over the world. So once you contact us, we will put you in contact with someone in your region or in your country that can help you with the applications. So with that said, I go back to Petra so that we can start with the questions and answers.
Thank you very much, Luis. Yeah, you can see that Luis was very much involved in the last award and had to deal with all the applications. So he's really an expert on this. If you have any questions, please contact him. So what I was trying to do, thank you first for the questions. Really very, very interesting questions. I have tried to group this, and I would like to invite all our presenters to put on the camera. Luis, can you stop sharing the screen, please? And that we can put all our all our presenters live on. And so the first question, the first couple of questions were around. So how do you respond if supplier does not want to cooperate with you? How do you bring the supplier on board? What is really the incentive here? And I would like to give this question to Steffen and then also Reinhard eventually. But Steffen, so you are a supplier of chemicals. What made you enter into this model, and how would you convince other suppliers to enter into this? Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Petra. And yeah, maybe our case was a bit special as well. As I said, we have been founded already as a joint venture between Dow and a recycling company. So the focus was from the beginning very much on offering these chemical product services, and optimizing processes was already the core of what we did from the beginning. And when this chemical leasing idea came up, we said this is a perfect fit for our business model to even take it a step further increase the customer intimacy and embed this incentive to optimize the process into the business model. So for us, it was a natural evolution, I would say, of the business model even. But maybe I can add one thing which I also saw in the questions, which is very much related to this, is what was the take of Dow as a chemical producer in that day on it. And because at the end you are selling less chemicals, right? But in the case of Dow, I mean, they were always very supportive with this business model. Of course, they have a sustainability agenda as well, sustainable development plan, etc. And this was fitting very much into it. And we never faced resistance on that end to developing the business model.
Maybe, thank you, Steffen. I can add a little bit from the perspective. I understood the questions of a user that wants to do chemical leasing, but the supplier is not convinced, is not willing. Then I would say there are several arguments and highlighting the four most important ones. One argument is with a classical business model where the supplier just sells chemicals. So each and every process optimization leading to less chemical is then a loss for the supplier in a classical business. In chemical leasing, each and every reduction of chemical consumption increases the profit of the supplier. That means we have several times this situation that a user tries to optimize processes to a certain extent he can do, and then simply the supplier in the classical business sells less. In the chemical leasing, where they do it together, the reduction of the consumption is higher and the supplier has significant more profits instead of losses. One argument. A second argument, which Steffen also mentioned, is chemical leasing is the entrance door to a long-lasting partnership. Normally, suppliers are interested to keep a client for a long period because acquiring a new client is always an effort. And with chemical leasing and this intensified collaboration, you keep a client for a long time, and this is a strong argument for a supplier. Another point is, and again, I'm repeating from a different perspective what Steffen said, if the supplier is not sure about chemical leasing and needs further arguments, you as a user can bring sustainability. Doing it together leads to more sustainable solutions than if everybody is doing it alone. And if you look into the future and if you look into the programs of the chemical industry, then you see that they are all committed to sustainability, to responsible care. They have a lot of activities in this direction. And this chemical leasing really brings the concrete case, makes general concept real life. So this is certainly a contribution to sustainability. and therefore I think it fits into the general line the chemical industry and suppliers are going. And last not least, and I think this is finally a key point, chemical leasing is a business model, and if you do it in a proper way, how it has been explained here, and how the examples have been shown to you, then it means better profits, higher profits for both the supplier and the user. And in a business model, this is the most convincing argument. If you increase profits as a partner, you just need to explain it, how it works. And then I think with these 4 types of arguments, you have good cards to convince your supplier.
Thank you very much. Thanks for this quite comprehensive response. I've also seen there are a number of questions on the role of consultants. How can I include this in my portfolio? How can I really start working? What is my value added? So I would like to give this question to Vojka and Branko, if you would like to come in, and eventually also Reinhard. But Vojka, are you there?
Yes.
Yes, super.
Don't mute me, please.
No, I won't. I promise.
Thank you. So it is, I think consultant is very important, but also I would like to tell you that when I started, that was a long time ago, I was on very, very good training in Vienna, and I thought I understood everything, but when I came back, nothing was clear to me. So I think, Petra, if they are consultant, they would like who would like to work on chemical leasing, you should organize webinar on that. So you should, but when we start in Serbia with Ecolab, I would like to say you that it is very good to look at our cases and to start with companies with whom we work. For example, Henkel or Ecolab or others. Sorry, that is not commercial, but that is the fact that you need good companies that would like to work on chemical leasing. Because if you put so much energy in company which is not, which don't want to would like to work on it, you will lose time and nerves, and you would not like to work on it. That is in short.
Okay, thank you very much.
To add something?
If you want me to add something, yeah, it's I can support what Vojka said, but just to add that how did we start? I mean, cleaner production centers or other consulting companies are already working with some companies. So you are, for example, we were specialists in chemicals management, and we determined you from your portfolio of companies or the number of companies, partners that you are working with, you can identify, for example, we were working with a beverage producer, Knyaz Miloš, in a cleaner production project. And then when we started to work on chemical leasing, we had a number of processes which were suitable after this training that we received. And in the beginning, it's really hard, but then you get more and more success. And chemical leasing can be a part of your offer for chemicals management. And what we noticed that there is not so many companies, consulting companies dealing with chemicals management, so you can help them with storage, with everything, but also you can offer them this new service. With this, you broaden your portfolio of services, and you can get new clients, and this would be your value add.
Thank you very much. Anybody would like to add something? Why not? Nothing? Okay,
yeah,
good.
I can add some points. A consultant can help to get procedures and internal processes readjusted. That means help doing proper accounting, help do proper monitoring for the new processes under chemical leasing. And maybe, Petra, this is also addressing another question. Sometimes a consultant can help to bridge research results and chemical leasing. That means research results done at university, done in labs, generate or might generate new potentials to reduce chemical consumption. Research generates new ideas how to do processes more efficient. And such research can then be translated into chemical leasing and be realized in practice. And I think for this step also a consultant can significantly contribute to build this bridge between research and chemical leasing, help identifying the right processes to bring new innovation on the ground and have it happen.
Super, thanks a lot. Thank you very much. I'm taking now the next question. This is for Luis, because Luis and myself, we are working on green chemistry. So Luis, chemical leasing versus green chemistry, please.
Yes, so basically green chemistry is the design and the production of chemical products, eliminating the hazard since the beginning, since the conceptualization, since the design of the chemical product. Now, as we've been speaking today, and as Petra presented at the beginning of the webinar, chemical leasing is a business model based on the functionality of the substances in which the supplier and the user agree to a unit of payment, and this is based on the function that the chemical provides. Now, chemical leasing can be a very good driver of green chemistry because most of the time green chemistry products, tend to be new and they tend to be more efficient, they tend to be less hazardous, but they're new, so they're not being tested normally, they're not used normally. So in a way, this can help producers, startups, small businesses, or even big companies that have this new product and that they believe very much on it to enter the market with this product. So this is the link that they have. And also remember that one of the sustainability criteria of chemical leasing is the substitution of chemicals. So it's always aiming to eliminate one chemical that is more hazardous to one that is less hazardous or with a less risk. So this is the difference.
Thanks a lot. The next question, and I hope we can take two more, is quite an interesting one. So if there is a company that is already doing enough on this continuous improvement, and this is also a field where I have been working for more than 20 years, which is resource efficiency and improving your process. So what's the value added to really enter into chemical leasing if you're already doing quite a lot of these improvements yourself? And I think from the same company, there was a question on, are we also having some ideas on consumer products? We don't have it yet. We are working on the chemical leasing more as a business-to-business approach. So please feel free, who would like to take this question on the improvements?
Yeah, Petra, I can start. This is a very general experience. When you go to companies and try to talk with them about chemical leasing, you very often find heads of production or production managers that say, we are doing a lot, we know our processes, this is really perfect. And in very rare cases, they are right. Sometimes there is really no potential to improve. But in many cases, even if you are very enthusiastic about improving your processes, you're not at 100% optimum. And the key point in chemical leasing is that a new perspective enters the game. So you are no longer alone as a user or as a manufacturer of chemicals. You now have a partner, you have a discussion, you have a different perspective. And even if a production manager thinks his production process is perfect, he does not have the perfect knowledge about the chemicals. This perfect knowledge is on side of the chemical supplier. And if the two partners sitting together exchanging, then they see where each is convinced he is already at 100%. No, in reality, they might be at 70 or 75%, and doing it together, they might arrive at 95%. What I want to say is doing it together opens the eyes, widens the perspective, and we have many, many cases where then out of this new collaboration, really significant improvements were generated.
Yeah. Thank you very much. And just to add on, it's really because you are changing the business case. So there is an incentive for sharing innovation. And this is why we very much believe also in chemical leasing as a new model for bringing forward innovation and new know-how for both partners. I have to close here now, but I wanted to give you a few additional informations. We will put the answer. We try to put the answers also on the web. Of course, this session is recorded, so you will have access to it. We will eventually also organize another session to address some of your questions. What I have taken for me is that we should organize more webinars so that we can really coach you also in your undertaking. There was also a very interesting question about agriculture. We are planning to have a special seminar on how chemical leasing can be applied to agriculture and agro-processing. So this is a very special topic where we thought it's better that we have a separate session, and we will of course inform all of you that we can invite you, that you can participate. Everything will be on the web, the questions, and just one last point. Very soon we will be launching a new chemical leasing book. So it's called Function to Perform. I hope it will be available in the next 3-4 months, and hopefully this will address further some of the questions that you had. So again, thank you to all the participants, to the moderators, not to the moderator, I'm not going to say it myself, to the presentators. What should I do without you? And thanks for the great collaboration. Have a nice evening, morning, afternoon, wherever you are in this part of the world. Thanks so much. Bye-bye. Bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.